And I know everyone here in fine voice. On the count of three. 1, 2, 3. In plenty and in time of need, when this fair land was young, our great forefathers sowed the seed on which our pride is proud. Our pride that is no wanton boast, what we have withstood, that binds our hearts from coast to coast, the pride of nationhood. We loyal sons and daughters all do hereby make it known. These fields and hills beyond recall are now our very own. We write our names on history's page with expectations great. With guardians of our heritage, firm craftsmen of our faith. Thank you. Welcome again, as is usual, in this place that we hold so dearly. We will always start with a word of prayer. Sister Annette.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Would you please stand as we give God thanks and praise? Please bow your heads and close your eyes. Dear Father, through your dear Son, Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, who died for us at Calvary to save us from our sins and self-destruction, we are here gathered this evening at this branch of the St. Philip South Democratic Labour Party to come together to hear what our feelings are, to bring before you our concerns. Open our hearts, dear Father, and let us receive what we're going to hear. Inspire our speakers that will be coming before you to this podium. Give us wisdom and understanding. Let it be meaningful to us when we leave here this evening, that we have something to think about. And let it be a nurturing experience this evening. We bring before you these speakers this afternoon, our chairman, Walter Maloney, our guest speaker, Felicia Dujon. Our speaker this afternoon will be Dr. Ronnie Yearwood, the president of the Democratic Labour Party. And we bring before you our vice chair, Cedric Murrell, who would be giving the vote of thanks. And as we proceed this afternoon, we pray that what we do here be pleasing and acceptable in your sight, O Father. And when we leave here, we return with a filled heart, inspired by the Holy Spirit to do what is right and go forward and bring this party, Democratic Labour Party, back to a great party. This we ask you in Jesus' precious name, and we all say, Amen.
Thank you, Sister Annette. Just a few matters to take care of first before we commence. Just to say that Brother Neil will not be here, one of our featured speakers. Neil is recovering from slight illness, and so he wouldn't be here. Also, our dear sister, Secretary Dale Ford, she wouldn't be here this evening with us as well, as she is doing family duties. And so I welcome all of you here this evening to the St. Philip South constituency. We welcome all those who are in the diaspora following this meeting, those who are at home. I also like to welcome our General Secretary, Brother Steve Blackett, the members of the constituency of the St. Philip branch, Brother Merle, who's the deputy chair. Brother Merle? Right. Sister Annette, that you heard from just now. Brother Richard Bino is right next to Cedric. So the ones are here this evening. And so we commence with this word of prayer. We sang the national anthem. We said, these fields and hills, all recall, are now our very own. And sometimes I wonder when I hear these words whether or not they are true. With the things that are happening in this country now, it makes you wonder, for how much longer will these fields and hills be ours? But we as a party, and as we always did before, from the time of its inception, this party always made certain that Barbados remain ours. We try to. Sometimes we try, and sometimes when we are not in power, we can see the slippage. We can see it moving away from us. But as the sister said just now, this party will do its utmost to make certain that we once again regain what is ours, what patronage we should have for our children. We must make certain that this country allows not only us but our children to be able to generate its own wealth, our children be able to make certain that whatever they do in this world, in Barbados has some place, is a place for them in this country. There's a job available for them. There's an opportunity available to them. Those are the things that we need to stand up for. And we are seeing it in this country every day, every day, every day. You can look in the paper before you get up one morning, somebody's messaging you. So something happened again. This morning, what it was, something about the marijuana or something. Now like it going backwards again. You know, every day, the sister who will be speaking shortly, same thing again. You're introducing these acts and these bills and things, back again. Because sometimes you wonder, whose interests are you really looking after? Whose interest? Is it the interest of us, this community, Barbadians like ourselves? I don't think so. Because we hear regularly when something pops up, you will hear somebody say, we had consultation with the public. And I dare say I ask persons, raise your hand, anybody here? The thought of it? Tell me, anybody ever came to you and asked you your opinion about anything? You know anybody that they went and talked to? I don't either. But yet, whenever it's convenient, they will come back and say, we had a discussion with A, B, and C. But you don't know who A, B, and C is. But they will say that. We cannot afford for this clippage in this country to continue. Do you know that every morning there are persons in this country who get up willfully, go by a bus stop, wait for a bus, can't get the bus, and when they do get a bus, they get to work, and when they get to work, the pay is docked. You all know that? You all know that people every morning in this country get up and go to work and end up at the end of the week with short wages? No fault of their own, you know. They get up and go over the bus stop at 5:30 waiting for the 6 o'clock bus, but it only come by 9 o'clock. Yeah. But every week, your salary is cut. But yet, we were told all these buses came. They were going to correct every ill that the Democratic Labour Party ever foisted on this country. Every ill. You're going to correct what is happening in the transportation system. Is it any better? They're going to correct everything that was wrong in the health sector. Is it any better? Don't tell me. Is it any better? They were going to correct everything that was wrong with the price of food and services in this country. Is it any better? No. So I need to find out, is our education system any better? Yes. Huh? Is crime and violence ever any better? Because soon for now the money that was given out is going to run out. You can't pay for crime to be decreased, though. You can't pay for it. At some point, it is not going to work. It's not going to work. But that's another discussion. But what we are seeing in this country, it is erosion of everything that we hold dearly. Everything is just moving away from us. And then they say, you know what's the biggest issue that we are faced with? Bajans get into the little corners amongst themselves, amongst the friends in the family, and we chatter, and we do nothing. We do nothing. We had a march on Saturday. I went. I didn't went for one reason, there ain't anybody here will tell you. My grandchild, 3 years old, and my job is to make certain that I, along with her parents, protect her. That nobody will take advantage of her. And I'm not going to allow anybody, I don't care who they are, to put foolishness into my grandchild's head, and will not allow her to live and to grow as young children is supposed to do. So I'm going to fight for that. And that is the issue that we are faced with now. Are we willing to stand up and fight for something? How much longer are we going to, we know that things are wrong in this country, and we're going to sit back and say, well, okay, fine. Something in miracle can come from heaven, and everything is going to be all right. No, God don't operate so, though. He don't operate so. God will help, but you got to help yourself too. There are too many things going on wrong in Barbados. Too many. How many of us in here have children who are either graduates of the Samuel Jackman Prescott, the BCC, the university, or just secondary school, who are looking for a job? Who are looking for a job. They're not begging. They did everything that was asked of them, but they're looking for a job. And then they're being told, you see you father or your grandfather is a member of the late Democrat Labour Party. Yeah. So you will suffer because of that. Why are we so scared to say that is true? Why are we so scared to say that the level of victimization in this country has risen 20-fold? Why are we so scared to say that? Because it's the truth. Why are we scared to say the truth? There's nothing wrong with saying that. And we got to do something about it. Because it is wrong for us to allow our children and our grandchildren to be victimized because of some belief or some love for a political party. But that's your right. That is your right. It is wrong. But we're seeing it every day. Every day. Every day. We have a public service that I am telling you, in the next 2 years, nobody's going to recognize it. We are not going to recognize it at all. You don't know what is going on in it. Nothing seems to be working. Nothing. All sorts of strange contracts. All sorts of madness. People acting left, right, and center. I don't talk about the trade union movement. Don't even talk about them at all. You know, it pains. I just said, you can say, who else here? It pains us to see what has become of a movement that was started among working class people for working class people to make certain that their rights and privileges were protected. It pains me. It pains me. All sorts of wrong things going on in Barbados, and you can't hear a word. One word. One word. What they got is the unions men to sign off on a compact. What madness is that? They're going to sign off on a compact with the private sector to keep down prices. You was bringing anything? Huh? You was importing anything? What kind of madness? And every time the government says something, the government says, well, we spoke to the unions. And the unions agreed. And then you go and ask union members, the general secretary, the president, had a meeting with you all to discuss A, B, and C. The answer is no. No. They just go ahead and sign off on it, whatever. We got problems coming up with pensions. I shudder to think about young people who are entering the public service now. They got to pay for their own pension. There are issues at national insurance. Issues at national insurance. You imagine that the chairman of national insurance, the current chairman of national insurance, made a statement that the problem at the national insurance is about the accounts not being in order. You know what I'm saying? He's the chairman. Well, if you're going to put blame, then one would expect the persons who shall be blamed would have been the director and the deputy director. Agreed? Anybody can tell me the person that was director for the last 15 years gone? Anybody know? But that person is no director of finance and planning. And you want to know where the deputy gone? Oh, she's a permanent secretary though. Right? Yeah. The same people. But in other words, you award, according to you, I'm not saying the people are negligent, but you award them because you said that the problem with national insurance stemmed the last 15 years because you couldn't get accounts on board. And every day there's something else. Every day there's something else. Every day there's something else. We can't continue like this. We cannot continue. And I hope and I pray that at one point something triggers all of us to get up and say, enough is enough. If we don't even want to do it for ourselves, let us do it for our children and our grandchildren. We must make certain that we secure a future for them. Anyway, enough of me. Enough of me. All I can say is that the Democratic Labour Party is once again being seen in the eyes of the populace as an alternative. And the reason for that is because we are bringing young men, young women, old women like myself, who are willing to stand up and speak the truth, and to show that these people are the most incompetent. Let me tell you, these are the most, listen to me carefully. This is the most incompetent cabinet that this country have ever had. The most incompetent. And I'm telling you, if you doubt me, go through every ministry one by one. One by one. And the only spark that this government has ever had, the only real spark outside the so-called the Prime Minister, was Jeffrey Bostic. I am so serious. When I look at all of them collectively, Bostic was the only one that stood out. Bostic was the only one that I would have said he was trying to work with the ministry and he was trying his best. No wonder the young man decided he done with this. No wonder the young man said he done with that. But you go through every ministry in this country. The Minister of Labour, Lord have mercy. People back up. You have backups at National Insurance, people can't get the benefits. You got backups at the Ministry of Labour, where people trying to get a hearing. The Employment Rights Tribunal can't meet. People, there were almost 5,000 cases. They caused the last chairman to resign. We all remember that? The chairman resigned. The chairman said, I had enough of this. I had enough. I wrote to the minister and I asked for this and that. Nothing was happening. A coward too. But he resigned. He resigned. Said, I can't do this anymore. Right? All of these things are happening. All of these things. We are being promised the world. We were promised a metaverse. What if you remember that? Huh? Islands in the sea. We have been promised all sorts of things. All sorts of things. And what is it? What is it that we are getting in return? What we are getting in return is high food prices. Okay? Soon from now, we'll be paying more for electricity. Right? Those are the things that we are getting in return. We are getting more taxation. That's what you're getting. You tell me. And I'm gonna finish here, this part here now, because the question I'm gonna keep asking, are you all better off in 2023 than when we were in 2018? That's all the only question you can tell me. And if everybody here collectively can stand up and say, I am better off. I pay my bills and I go to New York for Shafet, that's what it is, right? Or you gotta go to New York for Shafet now, right? And you can put out your hands and say, this is what I did. And they can take out my children and my grandchildren on weekends. Right? Then I will say, we are better off. But if you are not willing to lie, and I know there are no liars in here, I know that all of us, whether we are retired or whether we're still working, if we're retired, I can tell you no. Most retired people in this country are worse off than when they were working. Worse off. And you want to know why? Because they're still carrying the children and the grandchildren. And not because the children lazy, it's just that they can't find work. It's not because the grandchildren lazy, it's just that they can't find work. We have not stood up to the side, this government has not stood up to the side of the bargain. The bargain was, you go to primary school, you go in secondary school, you do what you gotta do, you go and do tertiary level school, and then hopefully, 95% of the times, there is something there tangible for you to go to. You have not lived up to the bargain. Because there's nothing to go to. There's nothing to go to. So the question I'm going to keep asking, are you all better off in 2023 than you were in 2018? On that note, I'm going to ask my brother Richard to introduce our sister, Felicia Dujon.
Good evening all, and thank you, Walter. Usually a hard-hitting, big voice, Walter Maloney. Well, my job is quite easy. It is to introduce Miss Felicia Dujon. Felicia Dujon is a lecturer in philosophy at the University of West Indies and had served as a human rights expert in the various capacities within civil and governmental organizations. Ms. Dujon has received numerous awards for her work in community development and activism, which includes Ambassador for Peace and nominee for the 2018 edition UNESCO Madhunji Singh Prize for the promotion of tolerance and nonviolence. Her weekly articles and commentaries appear regularly in the regional and local newspapers throughout the Caribbean. Most recently, she has been instrumental in raising concerns about the government's Child Protection Bill. And of course, there was a march which was successful a couple of days ago. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to help me to welcome Felicia Dujon.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Good evening, brothers and sisters. Good evening, brothers and sisters. Welcome and thank you for having me in St. Philip South. I almost missed the place because I wasn't sure if I was going the right place. Thank you for the introduction. I think you forgot one thing that has been said about me, is that I'm a very dangerous woman. And as you can see, I don't look that dangerous, right? But we have to do what we have to do. We have to continue to do what is necessary, not only for the country, but for the future of this country. So this evening, I will touch on three main areas. So I will let you know what we'll be discussing so that we don't go too far, so that they don't get the opportunity to say anything else about Ms. Dujon. Because I just want them to know that I've just started. So you have to be on the alert, because there's quite a number of things that we have to deal with. Brothers and sisters, our fellow comrades spoke about this new bill that has been getting quite a lot of attention in the media, quite a lot of attention in terms of person discussing the issue. And of course, they haven't rebutted anything that we've said. All they've done right now is to create fallacies and mistrust about the intentions, or our intentions, to have this bill reviewed. So now they're telling us that this bill will be going to what it's called a select committee. Well, we're happy about that, because one thing that we do know about this government is that it is an impulsive government. And by the term impulsive primarily means that there's no clear rationality, there's no clear feedback, there's no clear long-term decisions being made. And it's very important that when we see people make those impulsive decisions, how does it affect the society? And most importantly, how does it violate the rights of parents and children? And which has been the issue that we've been handling. Thus far, the party and myself have outlined all of the areas that need immediate attention. And what they have chosen to do is to call us names and to share mistruths in the media, and to try to attempt to discredit not only us as individuals, but also the party. But brothers and sisters, let's make it very clear to them. We are a very strong party. We are very strong people. We are also very resilient. And so we will continue to advocate. We will continue to agitate as long as it takes. Are we agree to that? Yeah. We're not going to stop because they say a few things about us. Come on. We've been doing this for years. And so we know what we're doing, and we know why we're doing it. Because if we do not do it, then who else will take that stand? It is our responsibility, as I said before, that we stand strong and we stand firm. And we will not negotiate on the terms that they're providing for us right now, because they want us to negotiate on a bill that is so erroneous that we tend to wonder, why would someone even think about passing that bill in Parliament? This type of egregious bill in itself, and one of the things, not only that they're impulsive, but they're also irresponsible. Because you're passing a bill, and now that you've been challenged for it, you're saying, no, well, you know, the DLP started it first. Okay, the DLP started it first, but did you even go through it? Did you review it? Did you take some time to do some research on it? So, but it's also a good thing, because what they're saying is that everything the DLP does is probably good enough for it to be passed. So as much as they're saying things that are untruthful, sometimes they tend to tell the truth without even recognizing it. Because the idea about this impulsive government is at times they tend to mislead. And while they're misleading themselves. And they reach themselves in a state of confusion. And so in that state of confusion, they do not know how to get out of it. So they keep spinning and spinning and spinning. Sooner or later, we're not going to hear much about them. So I want you, brothers and sisters, to stay alert and recognize what is happening. But what is also important is that you provide the support for those that are standing up. Provide the support, because it is needed. It is not only needed when we meet here. It is not only needed when we take walks and marches. It is needed on social media. It's needed in the media as well. We have to take a stand. We have to defend the party. We have to defend the country. And we have to defend the rights of parents and children. We have to do it. It is our moral and civic responsibility to do this. If you do not do it, you might as well stay home. you might as well stay home, because this is not a journey for those who are easily scared. This journey is for the fearless. This journey is for those who are brave enough to say, no, we've had enough. We've had enough of this kind of compulsive decisions that you've been making that will harm us in the next few years. The reality of those bills that are being passed is that we have to remain vigilant. Because once they believe that we're not observant, once they believe that we haven't read the bill or we haven't taken an interest in the bill, it is easily able to be passed. Because they're distracting us with all various things that we do not have to pay attention to. But what we do know when it comes to our civic and moral responsibility is that we'll remain vigilant, regardless of what names they call us or how they label us, and all the mistruths that has been and misinformation that has been passed in the public. They make a claim that I am an advocate, but I'm at all DLP meetings. Yes. Are you surprised? It is my democratic right to associate with any party that I choose with. So you should be concerned why I don't associate with you. And it's something that we have to know as citizens. It is our right. It is our civic and constitutional right. And so that message is primarily, I'm just going to pull up my phone right now. It's for the Minister for Home Affairs, Mr. Abrams. I will not even touch on what you said about the Child Protection Bill, because you should not be talking about children's rights. You, of all persons, should keep quiet when we're talking about children's rights. We remember what you did and what you said about those young children at GIS. So we're not going to say anything to you regarding children's rights, because we know what we're discussing. We're talking about the Child Protection Bill. So kindly, sir, do us a favor. But when it comes to our democratic right, because I observed what you said in the article that claimed that we do not need to match, that there's no reason for us to match. And it's a bit unfortunate that this comes from a minister who's responsible for home affairs. You're responsible, that ministry deals with the legality of civilians. And you're asking people to question their own constitutional rights. A lot of persons were anxious to march because of what ministers of government were saying to them. And other persons in the public, what I call them, the political actors, that they come and try to pretend that they're objective and thinking objective and speaking objectively when we know what the intention is. Because if you were being objective, you would tell every single individual, march if you want to, stay home if you want to. But it's your democratic right. You do not dissuade people from exercising that fundamental right. Because we're protected by the law and the Constitution, even though it's not there yet. We're protected by it. So, Minister for Home Affairs, let me just remind you that Chapter 3 of our old Constitution, and hopefully our new Constitution will include it. It speaks about the protection of the fundamental rights and freedom of the individual. And it does not distinguish what individual. It means every single human being. It doesn't matter if you DLP or BLP or CLP, it doesn't matter. You're protected by the law and by the Constitution. And so I just want to remind him that Section 11, what it says is that whereas every person in Barbados is entitled to the fundamental rights and freedom of the individual, and Part D tells you freedom of conscience, of expression, and of assembly and association. So, sir, when you are thinking to come to the public space to alert people that there's no reason why they should protest, because you and your colleagues, your incompetent colleagues, your compulsive and impulsive colleagues that claim that they will be going to the select committee. Let me tell you, sir, do your job and we will do our job. Do your job, because we know you can't do it right now. We know that you're not doing your job right now, because if you were doing your job, we had no reason to be marching. We had no reason for us to be coming here and telling you, sir, mind your business. Do what is necessary as a minister and allow civilians and citizens to exercise that fundamental constitutional right that no government has that right to dissuade them in any form. You as a minister was irresponsible to make such a statement, because what it does, it also tells me that you want to be a tyrant. You want to dictate what people should and should not do. If people are dissatisfied with that particular bill or any decision or policies that your government is attempting or wanting to pass, every citizen has that right. It is their human right to stand up and say, no, we're not accepting this. You should revisit it. We're not even telling you to remove it entirely. We're asking you to go back, give you the opportunity, because we know you're not doing your job, so we're giving you some time to catch up and do what is necessary of you, because you've been paid by taxpayers. Do your job. So, you know I have to say something about Mr. Kurt Humphrey, can I? So last week, while we were having a meeting in his constituency, for the very first time I saw how Mr. Humphrey was brave. I never thought he would be that brave until he brought all of his colleagues with him. I said to Mr. Humphrey, sir, we mean no harm, you know. You didn't have to bring the whole entire troop with you. You didn't have to find the Prime Minister where she was. I know she's busy. You had to drag the poor lady all the way to your constituency to stand up and fight for you, sir. All we wanted you to do is to go back and do your work and do it the right way. That's all we're asking you to do. We're also asking you don't have to be in Parliament throwing words for people. Do your work. Focus on the issues. Focus on the areas that we've highlighted for you. We've done the work for you already. What more do you want us to do? If you can't do the work, step aside. It's that simple. There's no long talk involved in there. If you can't do the work that is required of you, that people place in their hands to do what is responsible, you're not doing your research, you're not ensuring that this bill is adequate enough to be passed, but you want to lambaste people all over the place? That's not your responsibility. That is not your job. Do what is required of you, because it's in the interest of the country. It's the interest of children and their parents. So why are you taking it so personal? Brothers and sisters, we have to change the way we do things. The way things used to work before is not going to work now, because we are heading to dangerous journeys right now, and we have to be vigilant. We want to ensure whatever we do for our children, our grandchildren, and for this country, that it is done well. So when we come and ask you to do it better, it's not that we're attacking you. It's that we're telling you that we expect you to do better. We expect you to be an inclusive government, that even though we may see things differently, that you know that we're coming from the approach, a peaceful approach, to tell you that you need to do it the right way because we do not want problems later on. So we're requesting again, and we're going to challenge you, hopefully you do better, to challenge you to go back to the drawing board and do what is right, so that when we see the final bill, and you know we'll be here by the grace of God, to ensure that you bring a bill that reflects of all the concerns that we've raised and does not violate the rights of parents and does not violate the rights of children in any form. So brothers and sisters, the fundamental rights of individuals, the freedom of expression, the freedom for you to exercise your right to protest, you are allowed to do that. And don't allow anyone to tell you anything different. Because the question is, you have 30 seats. You have 30 seats in Parliament and you're wondering about a few people walking up and down the streets, huh? 30 streets, 30 seats in Parliament. But you still want to dictate how people express their displeasure. When you see that type of behavior, it's leading to a dangerous precedent. Very dangerous. And I think every Barbadian have to be very cautious about that. Because if you have 30 seats in Parliament, you don't really have an opposition. You pass what you want, you say what you want, nobody's there to rebuttal. But if you hear, and then you're hearing persons from outside coming out and saying, listen, everybody's seeing the same thing. You have to see something from the different side. And this is why I'm saying there is an importance of the opposition. And we do not have to be in Parliament to speak up. And every citizen right now is the opposition because you're not in government. You're not in power. So you need to align yourself so that your voices can be heard. Because they're not listening to you. Because every time you bring up any matters, they become irresponsible. They become very erratic. They name blame. They throw it on the DLP. They did this, they did that. They never take responsibility for their own actions. And I want you to observe that as well. Never take responsibility. And I just want to go back with what happened in October last year with those children. No one took up responsibility until they were challenged. And that's why I'm saying to you, brothers and sisters, this evening, we have one responsibility. And that responsibility is to remain the truth bearers of this country. Remain the truth bearers for your children, for your family members. You tell them the truth. Even if it's against us, we tell them the truth so that they can make decisions for themselves. We share the information and the knowledge that is required so that they make good decisions and they're able to differentiate from the mistruths that is being told to them, the deception that is being told to them. And it is our responsibility to do that as the opposition. So don't let them fool you. Don't let them fool you. You have a responsibility and you take that responsibility very serious. So the very last part, brothers and sisters, our dear sisters, when she completed a pure prayer, she said that we need to bring this party back as a great party. We don't need to bring it back. We are a great party. We are a great party. We are a great party. Don't let them fool you. Don't allow them to deceive you. You have to know where you came from to where you're going. Every political party, every political system goes through certain hurdles, but that doesn't deter them. The current administration had the hurdles as well. You're not hearing them telling you, when we get back to be a great party. We're not here for us to bring back all the ills that they did. We're not going to do that. We have to remember where we came from, what we did, the good that we did, the development and the contribution that we made, that our forefathers and foremothers did for us to be here today. Never forget that. So for us to move forward, we have to pull every member together. Leave no man, no woman behind. None. We have to pull everyone together. Because what we've seen there right now, brothers and sisters, we have to stand up together. We have to do it. If we have to save this country from what we're seeing right now, we can't do it if we're dysfunctional. We can't do it if we're in any form of anxiety or uncertainty. We have to pull each other up. And we will continue to be the great party that we are. Thank you, my brothers and sisters.
Give another round of applause to Sister Felicia. This evening we're going to try to see if we can have an interactive session. Sister Felicia, will mind taking a question or two, would you? Are there any questions for Felicia? No? Get up, get up. Come.
I will, and that's what I want to add as well. It's not that we only going to criticize a bill. We don't just criticize bills. We criticize bills because we've done our review, we've done our research, and we will be submitting our recommendations for the bill. But in the meantime, we just seen them spinning, so we allow them to spin a little bit, and then we'll send our recommendation to them very soon. Any other questions, any other concerns? I'm here.
Just come up so we can hear.
It's not a question because I just want to say I admire your dynamism. I have reached a stage in this country when I thought there was no one looking on at what is going on. And it's like a breath of fresh air to have you come and look, especially in that area. I used to be a teacher and I came up early. I came up 21, 23 years ago. And when I came out, I couldn't take it anymore. Honestly, I couldn't take it anymore. So what I did, somebody ran in the back of me, and I said that I was sick, and I came out 23 years ago. Because we don't care about the children anymore. And had people passing these laws. I was one of the things that annoyed me about the children aspect, right? Is the fact that you have a child and you don't know how to punish it. Because if it's fear at the child, it is corporal punishment. I know that different children, face different children differently. We are all individuals and behave differently and respond differently to situations. And that's not the law. So the rest of first year after you, and I would have stopped reading these scriptures and things. It was in my country's law, but now you give me that impetus to go back and start reading the scripture and listening to it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing that. And it's important that we continue to do that because it is our responsibility. And people ask me, well, Felicia, why are you doing this? I really do not know, but sometimes you are propelled to do things. It is our vision, it is our mission to do what is necessary so that people become educated on that. Now, in terms of what you highlighted, in terms of how you discipline children, in this new act, corporal punishment is ineffectively banned. Contrary to what the minister is saying, I am going to put him on the spot again so he gets a little licks from the public again. Because when you read the bill, it tells you what physical punishment is. And it tells you then, it explains what physical punishment is. So if this bill is passed, corporal punishment would ineffectively be banned as well. And this is why I'm saying that the way the bill is drafted is arbitrary. It is contradicting in quite a number of places. There's something else that I need to add. In the bill in itself, it defines what sexual abuses and sexual violences, which we all understand as well. And there is a part that speaks about Part 1 of the Sexual Offences Act. But when you go to the Sexual Offences Act, we remember sometime in December, I don't know if some of us remember where the Section 12 was removed from the Sexual Offensive Act. Any of us remember that? In December last year. So Section 12, which dealt with buggery, and it also dealt with indecent exposure to children. So why would you create a new bill yet reference to a part of a bill in another bill that has already been removed? So these are the kinds of inconsistencies that is in the bill. So I'm just saying that you have to go through the bill to ensure that there's no kind of language that can be misinterpreted in any way. And so for persons that have not read a bill or have not seen the bill, I would urge you to see it. Because the way that it's written, anyone who sees it, and that's what's happening right now in the media, most of the apologists, what they're saying, well, there's nothing wrong with the bill, let's pass it. Okay, we pass it, and what if a parent gets in some kind of conflict with the law? What it means is that the judge will have to interpret it the way he or she chooses, or the director can interpret it the way he or she chooses. And we don't want that in law. And so that's very important why we're doing what we're doing. We want to ensure that language is clear so that the average citizen, the man on the bus, the boys on the block that have children would understand exactly what it is, because it's for your own protection as well. Any other questions? Yes, sir. I didn't hear his question. I didn't hear your question, sir.
I'm asking you, and going forward, that you will be all represented.
I just thank you for your question, sir. But what I can say to you, whoever we send, you support them. Whoever we send, you support them, and I'll be there to ensure that you support them. Sorry? Yeah. We'll make sure that whoever we send, we're sending them directly to them, okay? So we'll make sure that whoever we send, and this is for all our constituents, you support who we send. Okay? And we have to make sure, as I told you before, we are on a journey. If you're not cut for this journey, stay home. We'll come and visit you. But we're on a journey. And this journey is going to be a long road. It may not take 5 years, it may take 10 years, but we're moving and we have to stay strong and firm. Because right now what we're seeing, and you'll hear lots of propaganda. There even, I think I read an article yesterday which says that I'm being funded by international agencies. I thought it was hilarious. Because I was thinking, well, you know, it kind of makes sense, because if they are being funded by international agencies, then why can't I be funded by international agencies? But no, my brothers and sisters, you see what you get. And it's that simple. Because when you are on a journey, and it means for all of us, because we are on a journey, regardless of where we start, there's some that will be here with us now, and there will some that will join us later on. Give them time. Some have not forgiven, and that's okay. But we believe in redemption because we are good Christians. So we will take the time to nurture and to do what is necessary and what is required of us. But as I say to you, it is your responsibility. Whoever we send, you provide the support. Because it is your duty to ensure that this party remains a great party that was founded on good people with good ethics and good morals. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget where we came from. So if anybody tells you different and they want to pull a particular time in history, do your homework and find their time in history too. They didn't just evolve. They're not premature babies. They have a history too. So show them your history as compared to their history. And that's what we need to do. Do your research. And if you, in some cases, do not know some of it, we're here. We are here to provide the guidance and the support. Because that is what we have to do. If we do not come together, and that is what they're hoping to do. Because one of the things that I heard, and I see our president here this evening. Good evening, sir. I was just going to talk about you. But I was going to say good things about you. Because after I heard what the Prime Minister said about you, that you should run somewhere out of Barbados, it kind of hurt me deeply. It really did. Because every Barbadian deserved that chance. Every Barbadian, no matter where you come from, what you do, what you have done, you have the right, the constitutional right, to try to represent your country and to serve your country. So it was a bit unfortunate that a prime minister who speaks about global collectivism and CARICOM-ism, but cannot appreciate a Barbadian wanting to serve his country. It was very unfortunate. As I said before, it hurt my heart. Because if you can say that about him, what do you live for? Me. They said I'm Jamaican. I heard the talk show program and they said this Jamaican woman. I'm St. Lucian. And I've been here over 20 years. I came here to study. My brother, who's Barbadian, told me to come here to study as opposed to going to the US. And when I came here, being a good student, I was offered to stay and continue my work and research. So when we hear certain things in the media or from person's mouth, do not dismiss it. Because if you dismiss it, it becomes truth. Every Barbadian, every citizen, regardless of your background, you should be able to want to serve your country. It's a calling. You don't just get up and say, hey, I think I should run. You know, it takes a lot to decide that this is what I want for my country and this is the vision I have for my country. If we're talking about the youth and we want the youth to participate and we want the youth to do better, but then you see young people coming out and wanting to serve and you want to discredit them because of their past or because of what somebody said to them while in the political circle, don't ever encourage that kind of talk. That kind of talk is a dangerous talk. That kind of talk, it's not only damaging, but it also speaks to the level of politics that we're trying to move away from. So my brothers and sisters, remember, whoever we send, we're sending them because we know that they are ready to serve regardless of what is being said about them. And you defend them. You defend them. And as I said before, it doesn't matter who they bring. So Mr. Kurt Humphrey, you could have brought whoever. It wouldn't shift me. Because I'm grounded enough to know where I stand. So waters don't move me, sir. It does not. Words don't move me, sir. Or madam. Because I know where I stand. And as long God implanted me here, there's nothing you can do about it. So let us continue to support those. Let us continue to defend their honor. And when they come with that kind of rhetoric, we'll ask them, are you okay? Are you all right? We don't talk like that anymore. We don't. Because we value every input of every citizen, every Barbadian. Because it takes every hand to get us where we need to go. Okay, my brothers and sisters? Any more questions?
Some law, you can work the internet, you can...
So if you want to find any of the laws or any of the... If you want to find it, you go to the government of Barbados website and you're able to download it from there. So it's easily accessed. And again, if you have any difficulty, sir, every constituency has a branch, and what I would advise branch members to do right now is to, if we're discussing any bills, get a community night and you sit down and we discuss. Because we don't want our people going out there and they don't know how to rebuttal some of the kinds of misinformation that has been passed there. We know what we're talking about. So one of the things that they say, we haven't read the bill. You know how long we've read that bill? We were just giving them time. We were giving them time to prepare themselves and get themselves together. But obviously they didn't do what they were supposed to do because they're impulsive. They're impulsive, they're quick to pass laws and legislations without thinking about the consequences, whether it's long-term or short-term. So if we come in now and we are alarming you about certain matters, don't come and lambaste us. It won't change the fact that the law is inadequate. And it also wouldn't change the fact that some of your ministers, if not all, are incompetent. So what we're advising everyone to do is to stay focused. Don't allow them to shift you. It is easy. They will come with misinformation. They will come with deception. They will also allow their friends of your friends to tell you different. But when they come, tell them, listen, I read this bill already. Don't come here with that foolishness. Yeah? Because you know what you're talking about. You're informed. And once you're informed, nobody can dismantle your thinking. Okay, brothers and sisters? All right, we're ready. Any other questions? Or are we good? Okay, we're good.
Oh, brothers and sisters, another round of applause, man. Jesus. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I can listen to this young lady all night, huh? And she's speaking what? The truth. She ain't lying. She's speaking the truth. And you can tell when you're speaking the truth, you know. They don't like it. And they use every avenue available to them to try to discredit you. They go to the lowest denominator. They try to find things to say about you because you're speaking the truth. And this is what this party is about. We're going to continue to speak the truth. We need to do it. We need to let our people understand that all is not well in this country. And this party must be the party to put it better. So tonight it gives me the greatest of pleasures if I can get this thing fixed. Sorry? A clap? Oh, thank you. I don't mention anything about squeezing together or that foolish. It gives me the pleasure though tonight to welcome our next speaker. I think this is the third time you'll be in St. Philip South. You're always welcome in St. Philip South. In fact, all members are welcome in St. Philip South. Tonight, however, I think we're going to enjoy and listen attentively to what the president of this party will be speaking on. There are some things that need to be said. There are some things that need to be reinforced. This is not time for us to be looking over our shoulder and say we can give them another 5 years, another 6 years, or another 2 months. Can you imagine what's going to happen to us if these people are in power for the next 5 years? I tell you, I don't know. I don't know how we can survive. So tonight, brothers and sisters, let us welcome to the podium the President of the Democratic Labour Party, Dr. Ronnie Yawa.
No, it's fine. It's fine. So, how many people it takes to spend? I got it. All right. We got that little technical problem out the way. Good night, St. Philip South. How are you doing? I seem to be in St. Philip a lot. I am not sure what keeps calling me to St. Philip, but I would admit that I didn't get lost this time in finding my way here. I want to first start off by thanking St. Philip South Constituency Branch for having me. And I also want to start off with a note of thanks. I want to thank the members of the Democratic Labour Party for their stellar service, their work, their support over the last couple of months as we went about our zonal meetings. I want to thank the Secretariat. I want to thank the General Secretary. I want to thank the branches. I want to thank all the speakers who turned up to support and energize this party and to spread the message of this party and to speak to the people of Barbados. Too often, and I'm going to say this, and I really want you to hear this, too often our culture is one of ingratitude. We do not thank people when they're in front of us. We do not give them the compliments that they deserve and that they're due. So I want to say from the bottom of my heart, a big thank you to the Democratic Labour Party family for all that you're doing, for all that you continue to do, because in many ways, all we're doing and all that we do is a task of a volunteer. Many people do not still understand and know that we do not get the subvention, we do not have the office in Parliament, we do not have the secretarial support, we do not have the normal governmental support, we do not have anything that an opposition party over the life cycle and years of opposition in Barbados or anywhere in the world would be accustomed to. At the moment, what you see from the Democratic Labour Party, the output that you get is the soul, the life, the blood, the tears, the sweat of this membership because they love this country and they love this party and they will fight to the bitter end to ensure that we have a better Barbados, to ensure that we have a better future. So I can only be grateful and thankful for all that you're doing, because all that you do out of service, you do out of sheer duty and sheer love. Because at this moment, we are doing this out of our hearts and out of our pockets for and on behalf of the people of Barbados. And that deserves a big thank you. Tonight, I want to get into the, a little bit more the raw politics than usual that you would get from me. See my General Secretary smiling. And I want to start by saying 30 but nothing. That's it. You got all the seats in Parliament. You have every single thing available to you as a government at your disposal. You have the entire, and I want Barbadians to understand this because the entire machinery of government, every single taxpayer's dollar, every single admin officer, every single secretary, every single research officer, every single consultant, you got the Parliament buildings, you got the opposition office, you got the Prime Minister, You got every single thing. All. A-double-L, all. But yet, you produce little to nothing. 30, but nothing. That's where we are. 30, but nothing. How is that even possible unless you are literally the most incompetent set of leaders that Barbados has ever seen post-independence? Because that's the only, I don't care when there is no other logical reason for your failures. So you get up on a platform, Prime Minister Plant, she come out huffing and puffing like it's somebody frying for she. Let me be realistic. The last time she tried that foolishness, I had to remind she where I grew up. Because I come from Boscobel, I ain't grew up with nothing. And I'm frightened for a fight. I don't start them, but let me tell you something, I will finish it for you. And she needs to understand something, right? You do not own this country. This country owes you nothing. You have taken everything from this country, and if anybody owes Barbados something, it is you. You have served your entire life. You have failed upwards. Your entire life has been a failure upwards. Somehow, you have managed to fail upwards. You want to tell me that I am not Barbadian and I should go back to somewhere else? Who went to school overseas when they was 12, never did 11 plus, but waltzed into Queen's College? Nobody don't remember them kind of things. Every single person here had to be subjected to an 11 plus exam. You have spent your entire life being something that you're not. I am who I am. I know who I am. I am grounded who I am. So let me tell you something, right? This country owes you nothing. And the next time you feel that you can unpick your teeth and talk about the Democratic Labour Party, keep your mouth closed. Because let me tell you something, the Democratic Labour Party did not start in 2018. The Democratic Labour Party started in the 1950s when Al Barr decided that the Barbados Labour Party was not fit for purpose to lead this country. So all of a sudden, every single problem in Barbados is a Democratic Labour Party problem. So you can't get the IDs fixed, but the DLP caused it. The governor ain't get appointed properly, but somehow the DLP caused it. You tell me you can't get the roads fixed, but the DLP caused it. The statistics on employment, the DLP caused it. You ain't get a republic constitution, the DLP. How is the DLP gonna cause it? How are we gonna do it? We have no seats in parliament. We cannot even filibuster a bill. We cannot get up there and stop you from doing anything. You have the ability to transform and change this country, but every single day, do you know what? You fail. 30, but what? Nothing. That is the Barbados that we face. That is the Mayor Motley that we face. That is the Barbados Labour Party that we face. Utter failure, utter incompetence, and I dare anybody to show me otherwise. Because they cannot. That is why everybody is silent. That is why all the people that come out and march up and down all across this country, wearing white and holding hands and clapping, you hear them now? Where are all the educational specialists when the education bill was put there? Where are all the child rights advocates when the child rights bill was put there? Where them is? Quiet. You have a party, and I'm going to veer off, I'm going to keep on track. You have a party suggested some amendments to a bill. If you were in government, if I was in government and I had somebody, I would say, well, you know, that's a good idea. All right, let me hear you, come sit down, let me talk through this, let me figure out what do you want. Instead, you get the minister crying and complaining, oh, them passed the bill first, they had the bill first, and is the DLP fault, and is the DLP do this, and the DLP... I don't remember, I don't see the DLP members in the Ministry of Elder Affairs on the daily basis. I don't see them there saying, don't draft any bill. I don't see them in Parliament arguing against it, because he's arguing against himself. So how is it the Democratic Labour Party's fault? It is not. And it is time that the media, and I'm looking at them, it is time the media, it is time Barbadians stop this foolishness. The government has been in power for 5 years. This is the Barbados Labour Party government. These are the Barbados Labour Party problems. These are the Barbados Labour Party issues. They have nothing to do with the Democratic Labour Party because we are not even near Parliament to say, you can blame me for blocking the bill. You can blame me for passing the amendment. You cannot blame us for anything. thing. That is just the reality. That is the facts of where we are in Barbados at the moment. But yet, you're going to come out in the country last week talking about how we are dangerous people and we're spreading disinformation. How can we spread disinformation where we know the ID cards don't work? That's disinformation. That is fact. How can we spread disinformation when we told you, discuss the Constitution first, pass a republic so that you get the Constitution and the republic, do not do it backwards, and now you're coming back with it. How are we, that is a fact. How is that disinformation? How are we spreading disinformation when we tell you that yes, you've improved the public finances, but you have done so on the backs of Barbadians with all the 30 plus taxes? That's a fact. How are we distracted? Oh, Barbadians, you're distracted. Distracted by what? Distracted because we can't eat. Distracted because you can't pay a bus fare. The man that I saw at Cherry Tree Hill today, after he left church and just went on a little jolly, that telling me that no tourists ain't coming, he distracted. We distracted because we cannot get by in a country that should belong to us? Are we distracted because the Joseph people carrying the government to court? Is that distraction? These are the realities of this country. Barbados is not working. The Prime Minister has been found wanting. You are the most incompetent leader, and I will tell anybody, challenge me, show me otherwise, from EduTech, straight up, every single thing you have failed at. Name something that you have actually passed as work. And the funny thing about it, everybody lit pen down. Oh yeah, you know, if EduTech had worked, you know, during COVID, things would have been different. Of course it would have been different, because by then the entire school system would have been properly computerized. We have reports, independent articles showing that EduTech did not improve teaching standards, did not go through the system properly. Nothing about it worked. A flagship project headed at that time by the supposedly super minister of education. Largest loan for education at that time for the Americas. And what have we got to show for it? Nothing. But you're going to come out here telling me foolishness, don't be distracted. Distracted by what? Ignorance and incompetence? 30, but what? Nothing. You know, and the beauty about it, the thing that has got me, Prime Minister loved to dish it out. She liked to dish it out. But when you got to share back some, all of a sudden, you will hear, well, you know how he behaving. How he behaving? I sharing the same lakes that get shared. And if you can't take them, this is probably not the place for you to be. Because if you are so hypersensitive about every little thing, you got and think about how dangerous this is as a president. You have every single seat in the parliament. You have everything, but every time somebody says something, oh, we're always criticizing. What are we supposed to do? Clap for foolishness? If it wrong, it ain't wrong. If it ain't working, it ain't working. How hard is that to understand? That's how democracy works. That is how it's almost like we forgetting the politics of this country. If the bill got passed that ain't working, we say it ain't working, we say we support the bill, but you need to look at X, Y, and Z. How hard is that to understand? These are normal things. You think we should be having a discussion about democracy or the right to march in this country? I feel that we're rewinding the clock. These are debates that we were having in the 50s and the 40s and the 30s. There's no way that anybody in Barbados in 2023 should having to sit down, go through a constitution and try to reassert a right to march peacefully in Barbados. I don't have to agree with you, but I will fight for you to have your say. I ain't gonna march for you, but you have a right to march. If 10 want to march, if 2 want to march, where 2 or more are gathered, he's there. If 2 people want to go there and hold a placard, go along. If you believe that, that is your belief. My job as a leader is to create the space and listen to you. Listen to your fears. Understand that the people out there marching, they're not stupid, they're not mad, they have legitimate fears. You listen, you talk to them, you understand, you try to say, why are you afraid? Let me hold your hand and let me walk with you and let me talk with you. But no, oh no, they should march. And then you get your sycophants in a newspaper and the columnists to be questioning somebody's right to march. Oh, you know, I don't think they should be marching. But when you were out there marching all over the place for whatever you want to march for, you wanted our support. But there may come a day when you're looking around for somebody to march for you, there's nobody. And let us be wary. Let us keep our eye on that. Let us understand that a democracy functions on supporting opposing views. Even if you do not agree, you have to agree for the principle to have that view. I do not have to believe in what you believe in, but I will fight to ensure that you get that space to purport that view. And that is what a democracy is about. That is what this Democratic Labour Party is about. That is the founding of this party. You think that we should have to debate this? And always come in with some scheme, some skullduggery, some cloak and dagger foolishness and whisper campaign. Oh, they got an agenda and they don't like this body and they don't like that body in the Democratic Labour Party. Let me say now, the Democratic Labour Party is an inclusive party. Everyone has a space in this party. White, black, brown, woman, man, LGBTQI. Does not matter your identity, your race, your class. This is your home. Let me put that. So anybody out there telling foolishness about the Democratic Labour Party, haul and pull again. This party was founded on a principle as inclusivity. The last meeting I went into our constitution to show you before even the Barbados constitution was conceptualized, we were talking about human rights. We didn't now wake up and talk about human rights in this party. It is in our constitution. We guarantee it for every single member. If we can guarantee it in this party, think of what we will do as a government to protect the rights of every single Barbadian. Does not matter. Every single, all, ALL, all of you will have a space in here. Regardless of sexuality, gender, identity, does not matter. That is what this party is about. You know, so, Prime Minister Vicks, Mayor Vicks to Barbadians for pointing out the obvious. Vicks, that people talking about cost of living. Upset that we're not clapping at her government's supposedly awesome performance. Vicks about everything. Telling me don't get distracted, telling me don't fall for this. But you know what? People aren't distracted in you, Mayor. They're disappointed in you. Because you're just a letdown. You're just a letdown to yourself, you're a letdown to your party, and you're a letdown for your country. I don't care how many global awards and pundits and praising you up. CNN does not live in Barbados. The World Economic Forum does not have to drive the roads in Barbados. They do not shop in the supermarkets at Barbados. They don't got to buy the $40 chicken and whatever else prices and pay the gas prices and struggle to send schools and children. They are not the ones facing layoffs. So they can afford to give you awards. They can afford to clap you while you're sipping your champagne and eating your canapes wherever you are, while the people in this country are suffering, because they do not live here. But if they want the reality, they should come and visit Barbados, leave the hotel rooms, leave the conferences, and drive book and talk to people. Understand what is going on in this country. This is the Prime Minister who telling me that we can't oppose and we can't talk about things, would fly hither, thither, everywhere when she was opposition leader and tell the worst things about Barbados. But don't talk the whole country just because she wanted high office. Striking all sorts of things. The governor of the central bank is on his way to New York tonight or tomorrow to beg Barbadians to buy the J Plus bonds. Let us imagine this scenario and picture it. Mayor Motley as opposition leader, the governor of the central bank on his way trying to convince struggling Barbadians in New York to support struggling Barbadians here at home. What do you think a Mayor Motley would do? We know what she would have probably do. Don't buy a bond. The government ain't good. You don't gonna get back your money. Restructuring ain't work, blah, blah, blah. But let me tell you, you know how we operate. When they go low, we do what? We go high. And I will not be that person, because we can do better. We can always do better. We do not have to talk down Barbados to win over Barbados. We will talk up Barbados to win this country. We will walk a path of dignity and a path of light and a path of righteousness. And that is what this party has always done. And that is how we will win over Barbados. I ain't gonna pull down Barbados. I will not go to international forums and talk about how the country ain't working and how this ain't happening and how this ain't happening, just in order to destabilize this country. We know that's what happened before. We know that was the approach. Every single social media outlet, every single influencer. And now that you've won it, you don't know what to do with it. Can't get it function. But everything now, the DLP. How we get the DLP? You've been in government for a whole 5 years. All of this is now yours. 30, but nothing. So let me look at this. You botched the ID card project. You botched educational reform. You botched economic reform. You botched the housing project because we ain't seen nothing. The road repairs project's botched. Name something that the government has actually done that is succeeding and benefiting the people of Barbados. Besides the borrowing. Well, I don't know, the taxes and the borrowing. Because the borrowing propping up the foreign reserves. So at least you will get some points for that. But the borrowing problem, but the reality is that creates another problem because that creates a debt trap. So you prop up the foreign reserves because you're propping them up through borrowing. You've not propped them up through earnings. So we got about $14.6 billion in debt at the moment. We have the largest external debt at the moment. So what had happened, let me explain this. The debt has switched from internal or domestic debt to external debt. We have about $5.1 billion in external debt at the moment, $9.1 billion in internal. Before, under the Democratic Labour Party, 2017, 2018, it was $2.7 billion in external and $11 billion in internal. So we are about $14.2 billion right now overall debt. And before, on the Democratic Labour Party, we were about 13.8, 14. So roughly, around the same kind of region. So all the restructuring did was shift the nature of the debt. The restructuring did not change the fact that Barbados at the moment is still a highly indebted country. At this moment, when you look at the last estimates, the government has a deficit of about $1 billion. We still need to somehow find $1 billion to pay for the things that we need to pay for. These are just the realities of where Barbados is at the moment. But somehow, you as a government, you as a prime minister are spending your time blaming the Democratic Labour Party instead of just doing your job. At some point, your public relations, your spend, all of it will catch upon you because you will run out of road, and we are actually running out of road at the moment. That is just where we are. I want you to understand that this country is at a dangerous place, and I am very concerned about where we are for our democracy, for the rights of this country, given that speech that the Prime Minister made last weekend about people's being distracted and disinformation, and that, essentially the media should not publish or say anything that the Democratic Labour Party talks about. And that is a dangerous place. If you have every single seat in the country, but yet you are finding it appropriate to direct the media of this country of what to print and what to publish, you are at the line of censorship, and I am not afraid to say that because that is problematic. You cannot tell the Democratic Labour Party what to say. You cannot tell the media if to publish or not to publish what the Democratic Labour Party has to say. We are an independent party. We are an old party with a tradition that is long, and we will speak for the people of this country. We will continue to advocate for them. We do not need Mayor Motley to tell us how to operate. We will operate as we see best fit for the people of this Barbados country. And if you have 30 seats, but you still find it necessary to believe that you are in a position to try to direct not only the media, the opposition, you actually have a serious problem. Something's wrong with you. Because with every single instrument available to you to govern, you still cannot govern, you still cannot get results. Stop blaming the Democratic Labour Party. Look around your cabinet table and your parliamentary colleagues for the 30 incompetent people that you got, the 29, plus yourself, that would make 30. That's what you need to do. Your child protection bill in pass, go and ask Kurt Humphrey how he messed it up. Your roads and fix, go and ask Santia Brashaw, who couldn't do anything in the Ministry of Education, but you put she in Capital Works. Your education reform is not going well, go and ask Kay McConney. Who can't tell me what's going on in education reform? You got education reform, this is so serious. Let me talk about this seriously. Look, y'all, listen. Education reform is a serious thing, right? You established an education reform unit. How many members of staff you think you will put in there? You will put a sizable, you put a team. You got about 10 people. You got people. You got 2.5 people, literally, responsible for the reform of the entire educational system of Barbados. But because the admin officer belonged to other departments, so you know in government you will call that, you'll count that as a half. Because if it's not your full admin officer, because somebody else will call them to duty, technically it's a half. I work in government before, so I understand. You know, because you got duties elsewhere. So you literally got 2.5 people responsible for the educational reform of this country. How do you expect educational reform to happen? The approach of this government in terms of managing is all wrong. If you're going to reform our educational system, this is what you need to do. Produce a digest of statistics. These are the number of students who are late. These are the number of passes. These are the number of at-risk students. These are the number of schools that need repair. These are the number of families that need assistance. These are the number of teachers that need training. These are the number of psychologists we need. These are the number of social workers. Produce all the facts, lay them out, and say, look, this is the general direction of travel that we want to go. Pamlet, please feed into this process. Here's a document, send in your comments, blah, 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 and then we go from there. But you walking around doing education reform, yes, I have a blank piece of paper and I am just here to solicit ideas. How you mean you got a blank piece of paper? You don't know where you're going? But you're coming, how does that make sense for a reform? There is no document, there's no roadmap, there's nothing to indicate where you are going and what you're doing, and yet you're undertaking the most comprehensive, or what should be, educational reform in the history of Barbados. And we supposed to take you seriously? 30 but what? So, let me break this down some more. You do an ID project. You do it online. Then you tell the people, come in, because the online system ain't working. And whatever they do online don't make any sense. So you actually physically got to turn up for what's supposed to be a digital ID. Then if you're overseas, you can't get it. So, I know you're going to pay for it because they're trying to drive you to get the ID project, because you might not want to get the ID project. By attaching a cost to the ID project, you're actually introducing a tax to vote. Anybody ever think about it that way? You know you've actually introduced a tax to vote because your ID is connected to what? Voting. And if you don't be able to pay to get an ID, therefore you cannot do what? Vote. How in modern Barbados is that correct? Something got to be wrong with it. I don't understand how we sit down and think about these things and think them through. You think that when you made the announcement that there's a cost to the ID card project, that was right? And even if you have the power to do it, because if you read the ID Management Act carefully, yes, the commission can change the cost schedule by an order, but you ain't published a notice. You ain't going hereby, according to section whatever, we hereby publish updated fees. First ID is now, you have until this particular date. You're going to just read it out in the newspaper, and everybody's supposed to accept. That is how we run government. We run government by newspaper reading out. Or you wake up, or it's 30, and that's how we're supposed to understand that we are now paying for ID cards. That is how you are running a modern, efficient, proper, functioning machinery of the government of Barbados? Are we supposed to take you seriously? Barbados ain't distracted, we just disappointed because it is 30 but nothing. Let me talk about tourism. Or let me talk about tourism. So you get a governor, the central bank, tourism is doing great and wonderful, and we are rebounding, but we're only at 76%. You know, voice gone on real low, we're only at 76%, but we're rebounding and we're doing really great. But nobody can tell you they ain't got the occupancy in the hotels are real low, and that people now on 24 hours. People on 24 hours in the hotel sector. And then if you go from 24, you're pretty much getting laid off. So people ain't got to work. What ain't people gonna do? Nobody's having these real conversations about what's happening on the ground in this country, but you both the place bragging, tourism is rebounding. Rebounding for who? What numbers are you looking at when Jane and Susanna and Tom and whoever, all of these hotel workers are struggling? The guy that I saw at Morgan Lewis at Cherry Tree Hill this morning, who ain't got nobody to buy his goods. What tourism rebound are you talking about? When he can't find anybody to buy the wares that he's peddling. That report means nothing to him. You could as well come out and tell lies. Because he is experiencing the real live Barbados. You get up and announce a water academy. How Water Academy going to introduce and help Barbados introduce Save Water? How about trying to capture the water that's running off before getting to the sea? Something is definitely wrong with this government. Everything is just some glossy announcement and nothing to come from it. Nothing. And you say so, everybody, man, you so harsh, you know, give him a chance. You had 5 years, what chance? This is not the lucky dip. What chance? You are running the lives of people of Barbados. How you mean give a chance? What are you begging for? You told us you were competent. You told us you had a plan. You got 2 terms. Now you have to face the music and show the results. And if you cannot show the results, get out of the way so somebody else can actually do the job that we're supposed to be doing. So all the economic gains that the government has been bragging about has been made on your backs. That is just the reality. Any of them books that are looking nice, they dirty taxes. That's why you can't eat. That's why the chicken is $40. That's why the gas prices are some of the highest in the world. Oh, this is facts. Am I making up this kind of thing? That is why Barbados at the moment is literally, let me get it here for you in terms of immigration. Because sometimes people don't believe you, you know. They think that you're making up these stories. So you just got to tell them, because if you don't want to believe me, I assume that you're going to believe some international agency or you're going to believe the people. So in terms of immigration and people leaving Barbados, right? Let me tell you what the figures are. Barbados has about 300,000 people, and roughly, I would say, 100,000 people immigrated, so we have a percentage of 25% level of immigration. So literally a quarter of our population in Cycling is constantly leaving. Therefore, that is why our productivity, that is why our growth is always an issue. So when we compare to countries like Dominican Republic and Bahamas and Costa Rica and Panama and Guatemala, and we looking at them, what y'all doing so well? Because you know what their levels are? 2.9. 3% immigrating, 7%. The highest in that category is Dominican Republic, about 12%. So their people are staying and making their country great. Our people are leaving because there are no opportunities here. This government is not creating the space for them to stay. Why would you stay? And then you can get and talk foolishness about population growth and you need more people. You know what? If you want more people, create the conditions for Barbadians to stay in Barbados. For Barbadians to live, work in Barbados and enjoy the kind of lifestyles that people come here to enjoy. Create the opportunities for them. Nobody asking for handouts. Nobody asking for a government job. Because that's where your mind is. Our mind in there. Our mind is somewhere else. So you need to elevate yourself. Madam Prime Minister. And if you don't know how to do it, I could teach you. Because everything for you is a handout. That's not how the Democratic Labour Party is about. That's not what we're about. We are about empowering people. We are about securing, and I've said this before, and I can say it again and again and again, this party, the greatest, the next challenge of this party is economic democracy. We provided political democracy. We have to complete the project. That is part 2 of the project. That is the next project of this great party. Economic democracy. Economic democracy, because you can have political power, you can vote every 5 years, but that means nothing if you do not contain and control the levers of power in this country. If you do not control the money, you control nothing. If you don't own the land that you walk on, you are nothing. It is time that we uplift ourselves. It is time that we recognize and we take back these spaces. That anthem about all these fields and hills and primary call, we've not fulfilled that. We have not, we're near scratching fulfilling that. You think a little bit of land on the tenantry freeholds is fulfillment of that? That ain't nothing. That can't be something when we in Barbados still do not own the majority of land in this country. That can't mean nothing when the majority of businesses and big businesses in this country are not owned by Barbadians. And I saw the media and I saw everybody catching up on a few words when I talked about the whole idea of questioning whether a rum factory could be owned by Barbadians or the Democratic Labour Party's anti-investment. Rubbish! The first set of investment in this country was through Albar and through the Beehive Project on Harbour Road. What anti-investment? We invented the concept of foreign investment in this country. So don't tell me the foolishness. But we have to understand that any form of new investments, Barbadians have to be at the center of them. That is how you get economic democracy. That is how you uplift your people. That is how you empower them. How are you bringing businesses here? How are you creating wealth and Barbadians don't have a stake in it? That makes no sense to me. We have to own these spaces. Real own, not half own, not pretend own. Not because you're going to puff up your chest, yeah, you vote for this minister and you feel good because you were a vote. But that mean nothing. How does that mean something when you are still working for somebody else? When you are still on your knees begging in this country, when this country is still a beggar. And literally the Prime Minister is making a beggar. Everywhere flying about, begging for money, begging for grants, begging for this. Because she obviously has a very funny relationship with money. I ain't grow up with much. And I understand, I respect it. I understand when you borrow it, you gotta pay it back. And if you can't pay it back, you don't borrow it. You find a way to get through. Because the kind of debt that we are being saddled with and the kind of situation that we are being put in, and she won't be here. Jet skis and rubbing shoulders and this and all this, blah, blah, you all about the place. 2 little parents, a few little people want to do a march, and you up in a tizzy. You puffing up your chest, and you all about in, when was that, sweet? Graydon City School. You bring out the troops, and the DLP this, and these people, let me tell you, ma'am, they are Barbadians. How you mean these people? How you mean the DLP? The DLP are Barbadians. They are part and fabric of this country. They are more in this country than you. They went to school here. Their blood and sweat and the tears are the reason that you walk up those steps every single day in Parliament. Let me tell you that these people? How you mean these people? You do not disparage the people of this country. They are members of this country like everybody else. You walk on their backs. The same cane that get cut, all the things that build the buildings, how you think you walking about the world now? On your own? You think you get there on your own? You did not. You got there because of the Barbados that is before you. That was before you, sorry. So, I'm going to ask you, what kind of mirror image do you have of yourself when you surrender your right to speak, your right to march, your right to have an opinion through the streets of this country because the Prime Minister, the Minister of Home Affairs, the Barbados Labour Party, and a few columnists feel uncomfortable that you got an opinion or that you got march? What kind of image do you have of yourself if you surrender any rights, even an inch, to anybody to dare question your ability to hold a different view? As I said, do I have to agree with you? But I will fight for you to have a space to have that view. Because I will listen to you, I will hear you, I will understand you, we will include you. This party will include you. We don't always have to agree, and that's the thing. We're not looking for agreement on everything. Sometimes we can fight up, we can have big intellectual battles, we can be all about the place, man, it can be bassa about here. Yeah, paste and pepper. But at the end of the day, we understand that we go forward together as a party, together as Barbadians. It doesn't matter if we're disagreeing. Once we come out of that and we find some little, even if it's just a little space by which we can say, aha, you know what, we can all agree on that. So when it comes to the Child Protection Bill, we all know we agree that we got to protect children. We all know that we have to do our best by them. Let us start there. Why are you propagating untruths that people are opposing the bill? Nobody has come out and said they don't want the Child Protection Bill. People have come out and said, I don't want the Child Protection Bill in the form that it is in. Why don't you understand that nuance, or is nuance so difficult for you to understand? How hard is it for you to understand that people can oppose particulars of something but still want the thing? And that's what you're having. There's no way in Barbados that any person is opposing protection of children. We know that there are children who need protection from some of the very parents, from some of the very family members. But at the same time, we understand there has to be balances to rights of the state, rights of the parents, rights of the child. We have to sit down and have these nuanced conversations. We have to hold each other's hand. You can't come heavy-handed and try to juggle people into something because that's your opinion. You have to convince them with the words and the power of your argument and bring them along. And you're going to get all-nighter, and then that's okay. That's okay. But you get enough that you know that what you are trying to promote and what you're trying to do has the support of the country. And that's not so hard. That's how government works. But you got 30-0, and you feeling big and bad, and you want to do whatever you want to do. But you still are unable to produce the results that you need to produce. So every time you get a failure, is it the LP fault? The next time I hear somebody says it's the LP fault, Lord help them and Lord help me. I can ask the Lord for 5 minutes. I can ask you 5 minutes. I might end up on one of them videos that you see circulating around. Because let me tell you, really? Y'all still playing that foolish game? How is it the LP fault? We've not been near office in government fight ages. It is your fault. It is your incompetence, your inability to marshal your troops and to actually sit down and do some work. I wish they would get off of social media. You're a big minister and you're on IG commenting to people. That's how you spending your day? That's why you can't read the bill? That's how you spend your time? You're on IG responding and fighting up and cursing up with people? But your citizens? Rather than engaging and listening to them properly, that is how you're going to spend your time. And then you wonder why you're producing such poor work, so poor pieces of legislation. I bet you none of them in our parliament ain't read that bill. I will put money on it. They didn't read that bill? They did not read that bill? I bet the same minister piloting the bill and read it. And probably pick up went in Steve's office and somebody said, "Yeah, I'm gonna draft. I see some notes here. Let me put them together and just present them." And then one top with the DLP do it. What we do? Even if he left a draft, I am sure it said draft on it. What are you going to do? Would you not read it and think, "Well, they probably had more time. They're going to do some other things here. Let me find out and do some other work." You going to pick it up and go along with it? So, I want to talk a little bit about the light bill. Tonight, I said doing a little wide ranging. I want to talk about the light bill a little bit. And when you look at energy, and this is the topic of it, when you look at energy in this country, we are basically looking at the fact that your bill has three components. You're paying the energy used, you're paying fuel surcharge, you're paying VAT. We know the rate hearing is essentially covering the first issue, the energy use. Now, Light and Power really has two central issues. Cost of renewable purchase by Light and Power reflected on your bill, and Light and Power seems to want to show separately, and this is it, they seem to want to show separately on your bill so that they don't get blamed for the cost of electricity related to any high tariffs that have to be paid for renewable energy. Now, the other question we have to ask is, how is the necessary storage capacity to be paid for as we add more renewable energy to the grid? Because if you remember, that was one of the issues that Light and Power pretty much seems to have said that they ain't got the space for this. Now, this approach seems like the same thing. Let me explain. You're going to get the connection with the Child Protection Bill. The DLP left, I love it, left a policy of 70% of renewables by 2040. Obviously, lots of research went in. There's a reason they chose 70%. There's a reason they said 2040. Mayor, Prime Minister, BLP come in hot and sweaty, and they said, we want 100%. Because if the BLP says 70, obviously, they want to they got to outdo. So they want 100%. But NO does not want to face up to the cost of this to consumers. But the reality we have to ask, is the 70% target just a more realistic target of what Barbados can achieve when it comes to renewables? Because can we really get 100% by 2030? And right now, if I remember, Lisa Cummins, the minister, was in paper, talking about we ain't meeting any targets. So why would you have moved what was obviously a sensible policy? Why 100% by 2030? It goes back to the question, why a republic? Why it was rushing? Everything just seems to be a rush. Why did we have to have the first embassy in the metaverse? That they don't even know where it is, like you get lost. Why we out front with a salt tax? Why you think you had to add on more to the sugar tax that was originally conceptualized by the Democratic Labour Party? And sometimes you're led to a sneaking suspicion, is this about building a brand for Mayor Motley, or is this really about building Barbados? Because Barbados cannot be the plaything of the Prime Minister. That's not how this has ever worked in the history of this country. Because, again, what mirror image do you have of yourselves if you sit and you accept this? How big men and women cannot see BTMI, the whole Shafet debacle is an issue, and people on social media clapping, and if anybody saying anything, you don't understand marketing, you don't understand. How giving away free rotis, attracting tourists to Barbados? The whole point of Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc., it is in the name, you're marketing tourism. That means for every dollar spent, you have to be bringing somebody to spend about 10 more in Barbados. How it working? I want to know, nobody still can tell me who the cost breakdown, who paid for what paid for what. We need to know. The moment you ask basic questions in this country, you get the sycophants. Oh, you don't understand what's going on. You don't understand don't understand what? We perfectly understand. That is why we're asking the questions. We went to the same universities as you do. In fact, I used to sit down son, and someone went, how you mean that we don't? How you mean that we don't understand? Of course we understand. Hence the questions. There ain't nothing wrong with asking a question. Because if you're gotten into how you will simply answer it and say, well, you know, the costs are, these are the reasons, this was the aim of the marketing campaign, this is what we were hoping to achieve, we've attracted, you know, another 200 visitors to Barbados that we expect to be here by blah, 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 blah. Okay, how much did you spend to get 200? How much do you think those 200 will spend to pay back for the amount that you spend and to make a profit? This is basic stuff. How is this hard to understand? I don't get it. What is wrong with our country? What is wrong with a Barbadian concerned about where we are? Ask a simple, basic question about government spending and the use of their money. BTMI money ain't its own money. That's Barbados taxpayers' money. All of these agencies, all of these foreign embassies overseas, that is our money. We put you there to do a job. And if we ask you a question, the most respectful thing for you to do is answer it. Don't send out your social media influencers to do foolishness and talk and try to talk down to people and try to bully them off of social media and Facebook and Instagram. Stop it. Stop it today, Prime Minister. Rein in your people. Because them is your people. Them in nobody else. People don't pretend. Rein them in. You talking about distrust and disinformation in the media and the media space? That is my message to you. Rein in your people. You want to create trust, create civility first. Let me start there. People have a right to ask questions. You get about the country, you get all over the place. You do the most. Somebody asks a little question. That's what I say. One of we all doing to Barbados. Talking number. How you mean? You get about Barbados, you do the most for any opposition leader in the history of this country. The most. But we asking sensible, logical, targeted, civil questions. No personal attacks, nothing. This party has been on the straight. And it's the worst thing. Really? Really? And Barbadians out there supposed to accept this? By telling you no, it ain't happening. Not under this Democratic Labour Party. We will fight to the last. And when we got the last, we're going to still fight. And we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep fighting. Because this country does not belong to Mayor Motley. It does not belong to the Barbados Labour Party. It belongs to the people of Barbados. We have a right to ask questions. My grandmother, both of them, my grandmother worked in the fields of this country, cutting canes. My grandmother used to sell huckstay. My grandmother was a part of the... I have a right on her behalf, on her ancestry, on her grave, on the grave of my grandmother. I have a right to ask questions in this country. They have built this country with their sweat. Literally their blood is in this ground. All of you have that right. Do not give it up. All of you, you are literally one generation removed, 2 generations from slavery. You know your grandparents. You can tell this. You know the stories of them in the cane ground. Up to the 50s and 40s, some of them still getting beaten. You know this is fact. You know some of you had to use knife and fork in order to get through the 11 plus when they had that party test. You know these things. You have earned every single right to stand up, to speak out, to say what you need to in this country. Nobody, especially a Mayor Motley, could come and tell you that you can't have a right to march to ask a question in this country. None of them. None of these young whippersnappers about the place never left a brick. What Kurt Humphrey know? What Santia Brashaw know? Davidson Ishmael. What do they know about anything? What do they know about hard work? What do they know about building this country and will come to shut down the good men and women of this country from being participants in this country? Madness. And y'all got to stand up. Don't take it. Literally everything in this country, you built this. This country did not happen by magic or accident. That period between 61 to 76 was the most remarkable period in the history of this country. And it happened by hard work and sheer tenacity and the vision of one man. It happened because of El Barrow. And that's not because we trying to praise up and talk about El Barrow all the time, but that's just our reality. 3/4 of the economic growth in Barbados, cumulative economic growth, happened during that period. That can't be by accident. That generation, that independence generation, is a special generation in Barbados. And if you want to ask a question, man, you can ask 10,000 questions. You deserve respect, you deserve homage, you deserve everything that this country can offer you because you build it. You literally build it with your hands. And it is the most disrespectful, disingenuous, dishonorable thing that a prime minister of this country can try to shut down dissent because she does not want to hear a few little people who may have a different opinion. That is not how Barbados works. It cannot be. So I want to leave you with something, because you know, they like to say that the Democratic Labour Party, that we ain't got no ideas and and that the party does be talking and we always criticizing, blah, 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 blah. But we know that's not true. But every once in a while you have to confront people and you have to put the ideas out there because you know they're not going to be able to do anything with them. And I taught last time in the election lecture about service zones. I've taught about the process for education reform and process for governance. We've talked about some of the amendments for the Child Protection Bill. We've suggested ideas to tackle the cost of living crisis. We've talked about education reform, or Shadow Person has talked about it. We've talked about an approach to inclusivity when it comes to the LGBTI community. We've talked about encouraging the opportunities for youth. This party has been on a mission. Nobody can say we're not having the conversations. We are. And if you are not hearing them because you're listening or you choose not to listen, but they're happening. And I want to throw one other idea out. And perhaps it is time we look at the development of a national investment bank as some form of private-public international partnership. It is time perhaps that we look for how we will provide financing medium to long term to micro, small, and other forms of businesses, and a partnership that can provide direct lending strategies for economic growth, and we foster, I can use this word again because we used it last week, realize that we're not doing things by accident. I can use it, ecosystem. We talked about the development of an educational ecosystem last week because we're trying to look at things in a holistic manner. If you're going to reform schools, you're going to reform everything around the school. Everything, from transport to the way schools are built to the way teachers are trained. So it's an ecosystem. So what I want to talk about is forming some form of ecosystem for venture capitalists and other types of capital to be able to function and support development of growth in Barbados. Because I talk a lot about growth, I talk about the new industries through service zones that we can attract. Now we have to talk about also how we're going to fund them and where that money is going to come from if it's not going to come from borrowing. Because I know that's going to be the next question. So before I want to ask it, I'm going to give you the answer. So perhaps it is time we look at the development of this National Investment Bank, a kind of private, public, international partnership in which we can attract the type of funding necessary to push the growth of the economy in Barbados. I know they may not know what to do with it. You can get a lot of complaints, but you know, look, the reality is we should not be afraid of sharing our ideas. nothing wrong. I will share as many ideas as possible with the people of this country for the benefit of the people of this country, because it is not about the Barbados Labour Party government. It is about what is good for Barbadians and what is good for the people of this country. I'm going to leave you with one quote tonight, just before I wrap up. I want to read something to you. As I said, it's not something that I imagine that I would ever have to read from a political platform, but nevertheless, it is something that I think it is important to read and to remind you. And I think Felicia touched on it. I may have read some of it, but it bears repetition. Section 21 of the Constitution of Barbados notes, except with his own, or I would say her these days, or their own consent, no person shall be hindered in the enjoyment of his or her or their freedom of assembly and association. That is to say, the right to assemble freely, associate with other persons, and in particular, to form or belong to political parties, or to form or belong to trade unions or other associations for the protection of his or her or their interests. You have a right to be a member of the Democratic Labour Party. You have a right to be a member of whatever association that you wish to be part of. You have a right to march. You have a right to speak your mind openly. You have a right to contribute to the public debate and discourse in this country. That is your constitutional, that is your God-given, that is your innate, that is your inalienable right. That belongs to you. Do not let anybody ever take it from you, not even an inch, not by a mile, not by nothing. You defend it. You defend it with every fiber, every being in your body, mind, soul, and heart. And I want to remind you that then got 30, but what? Nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, good night. I'm gone.
Good night, the good people of St. Philip, South in particular. And I'm sure that we have others here from all over Barbados, and indeed from the diaspora, because I want to welcome the chairman or the president of our UK branch, Marcia Patterson. Could you stand? Welcome. Brothers and sisters, we have been treated tonight to two very dynamic and fiery presentations from our young female comrade, Felicia Dujon, and our president, Ronnie Yearwood. In giving this vote of thanks, I just want to make a couple small comments. Coming from what Sister Dujon said, it is clear that we have to be vigilant. It is clear that we have to continue, I should say, to up our game in terms of trying to ensure that we keep our eyes open. And simply because the only place that you don't have any contrary views, I am told, I haven't been there yet, is in heaven. And therefore, in our country, in our society, vigilance is key. Ms. Dujon, and she was there. She's left. Sister Dujon, she's right. Spoke about fundamental rights, freedom of association. Now, I have come from a background all over my years, Walter and I, of defending the freedom of association, the freedom of expression, the freedom to march. That's what the trade union movement that birthed people like us over the years, the bedrock. Without it, it birthed us. We are still alive. Without it, we cannot achieve the things that we want to achieve, and we certainly would not have achieved what we wanted to achieve. It's strange though, but I thought that marching was a thing in Barbados that people liked and accepted. Mr. John also reminded us about the whole question of truth bearers, that we need to speak the truth. We need to stand up for the truth. And if nothing else we take away from here tonight, those are two key things that I want us to focus on. I didn't listen to our president last week, so I don't know if he was just as fiery then as he was tonight. But I tell you, he was coming off. Yeah, he had some breeze coming off the course there, and he was bowling Yorkers, bouncers. I didn't see them go down the leg side. They were all on the stumps. And so, President Ronnie, I certainly want to thank you for your fiery and assertive presentation tonight. And as I looked at you, I said he has the stature and the bearing of West Hall, and we know how fiery he was. Coming on to the end, you made the point, very, I think it's something that we have to really understand. Economic democracy is key to where Barbados can go. Now, let us understand that there are ways of reaching that. But there are some people who have reached it in an undemocratic way. We want to do it in a democratic way. We want to include people in becoming owners of this land. Again, coming from where I've come for the last 40 plus years, that is what the trade union has attempted to do over the years. And so it is important that as a party we focus on that. So the LP family, I want to thank you for coming out tonight. I see some from other parts of the constituency in the island. Want to thank our General Secretary, Steve. And we have to thank him because though we know he volunteered and he put himself forward, it still takes an effort to be able to every day, every Sunday, I believe, Steve, you have to keep your hand to the plow. And so I want to thank you for coming to St. Philip South. And as I watch you, I don't think that it's taking any toll on you. You look just as strong and as fresh. Good way. I also want to thank the executive of the branch for organizing this our first branch meeting, and certainly it would not be our last. And I just want to tell you that there are chicken wings and fish cakes and stuff on sale. So don't leave without leaving a few cents in St. Philip South at this wonderful place where we water every now and again. So I want to finish by saying that our president has left us with what may become a slogan: 30 but nothing. Thank you very much.